You want my room tour? All right, we got this Han Solo and Chewbacca painting I bought at Ross for $5. It's our mascot, which is like a dumpling that with our company had like a wine and painting kind of thing with no wine, and so
Okay.
I painted
So
that.
why did they call it wine and painting?
Well, you could buy wine for like $12 a glass. I was like, I'm not going to do that.
That's fair. That's fair.
And then
Okay.
this
Gamers
one,
resist.
it says gamers never quit. They just restart. It's just, I don't know. My sister just sends me these like cringe, like gamer wall art like every year.
It's like the equivalent of live, laugh, love, but
Yeah.
for gamers. You
But
should throw that in your bathroom. That'd be great bathroom art.
Let's start with utility. I don't understand what it even means.
Everybody has some kind of utils in their head that they're calibrating.
There's hardly anything that hasn't been used for money.
In fact, there may be a fundamental problem in modeling what I want to model.
How do I reconcile this with all of those quality of life metrics that say that Sweden is like the best place in the world to live?
I mean, you could have one system that's bad while the whole system works well.
First of all, you have to take into account that there are different cultural norms towards expressing happiness, and particularly how people are spun on surveys. So I think that's also a huge in Israel. They don't do it. I think you have to take that into account. Also, like, have you seen people during the winter? Motherfucker. All those surveys are taken during the summer. That's bullshit.
No, I hear you there. Okay. But, I mean, there's no doubt, if you just look at it objectively, they have very high GDP per capita. They have amazing social programs. Literally, Veronica was looking it up this morning, and they have 16-month, child leave. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
But I think people need to understand like what the Nordic model is, and Matt Iglesias had a great piece on this, and I can confirm it. It is a huge middle class tax burden, which creates a very broad tax base with an incredible number of benefits for the middle class. That is how the entire welfare state is generated. And that also involves, like, a lot of it is transfer payments, which I think people don't understand. The Swedish pension system is actually crazy. You're getting potentially 30% on top of your base salary paid into private pension, which again, it was exactly what George Bush proposed when he ran, George W. Bush, which is like you have funds you can select. So you can get market rates rather than like some flat rate, and it in your name. It's not paid from a pool. And so there's not going to be any of this bullshit about like raising age or lowering retirement, whatever it may be. You're insulated from some of those conversations. Now there is a public pension. And the thing you remember is like also salaries are so much lower. There's no tax-free income bracket. After a certain amount, you don't gain any contributions. I think it caps out at like $55,000 worth of contributions, or at least how much $55,000 worth of salary would generate in contributions. So like if you earn $60,000, the range between 50 and 60 is not contributing anything to your public pension. So it's essentially income capped.
Yeah. Eric, you got anything? Any fun updates?
I don't know. I've been rock climbing a lot. Ken got really into rock climbing.
Oh God. This is, dude. This means like you're in your mid 30s. You picked a hobby, rock climbing.
Yeah, I don't know how she got into it, but then she like signed up both the girls for a month-long pass, and so they've been going a lot. It's fun. I don't know. But at the same time, I was like, for like a 7-year-old, for like a 4-year-old, like the rock climbing, like every playground is a rock climbing gym. You know what I mean? So like,
kind of a waste of money, huh?
Yeah. But
wait, so I thought you were supposed to return that trumpet.
No, I got a new one. This is a pocket trumpet. This is a cheap $150 trumpet from Amazon.
Oh my God, that probably sounds like shit.
Yeah, it's all right.
What about the Neighbors app? Has anyone posted about you?
No. I mean, like I said last time, I was really fucking bad. I got a lot better. During July 4th, I was playing the Star Spangled Banner a couple times outside, and invariably, no matter how poorly I played it, people would clap. Because you can just cloak yourself in the flag.
Can you play us a concert B flat scale?
Well, yeah. I'm really bad at the high notes.
Don't tilt your head up like that.
Don't
tilt your head up like that. No. Try to stay.
I don't know. I'm just like tempted to do it. I don't know why.
Chris, you were a band kid?
Yeah,
I was a semi-professional trombone player. I got a full ride scholarship for trombone in undergrad. I don't have any college debt because I played trombone.
Because he was really good at it.
I was really good at the tromboner.
Can you play the thing from Star Wars? where they do the jazz scene?
No, I can't do that. I can do Take 5.
It's in like Naboo.
I'm like 7 years out of like my trombone playing prime, so it's been a while. So take all this with a grain of salt, but yeah, no, it sounds good.
Nice. I am kind of afraid about like on like the trumpet subreddit and stuff. They talk about how like people's skill decays really quickly. Like if you're out of practice for a few years, your range goes way down.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about those. I would not.
But I'm like,
worry about
am I investing in a skill that's going to decay and I'm not going to be able to do it? Right.
Yeah. Well,
it's like getting into skateboarding when you're 50, you know?
Yeah. I think that's just the way it is when you're over 30, you know, no matter what you got into.
Game Economist Cast, episode 51. Euro summer is over. We're back in the podcasting seat. It's been far too long. There's far too much to talk about. We have so many things we've been playing. So many things. Many games, some good, some bad. We will dive into all those details. We have big thoughts and small thoughts. We have prepared thoughts. There's been a lot. Guys, I dreamed for the first time in forever on this vacation. That's how I know my mind healed.
That's good. That's good for you, man.
Were
there drugs involved or you just had a good night?
In Scotland.
That's what gave you dreams?
That seems irrelevant.
Seems...
I fucking saw Adam Smith's grave. I saw Adam Smith's house, which is now a place where they do public lectures. So they are honoring him, which I thought was really cool. They also have a statue of Adam Smith near the center of town, although there was a cone on it and then a seagull took a dump on it. David Hume got one fucking statue, which I was like bummed by. I went to his grave, which was actually a pretty significant grave. I'll give him that. But like no museums or anything. I was kind of bummed by that. Scottish Enlightenment, all right, rest in peace.
No museums in Scotland or in Edinburgh?
For Adam Smith or David Hume. I saw a first edition of Wealth of Nations. That was in the National Library. Although they had nothing in the gift shop about Adam Smith. And I told the gift shop cashier lady that like, you're really dishonoring him by not having a gift shop full of items of commerce.
I think he has more like credit given to him in other areas of the world. I just don't think I don't think that Edinburgh really cares about the fact that they have him or could claim him. You know, I can't remember where it is. I think there is a museum that has more, you know, in-depth Adam Smith lore. I was kind of bummed when I went. I was on business, so I didn't really have a whole lot of opportunities to like actually visit anything. I just walked around like, you know, the Royal Mile and saw the cathedral and the castle and stuff. But I didn't even know. Well, I certainly didn't know Hume was buried there. But I didn't even know that Adam Smith's grave was there. All I went to see was Voldemort's grave or whatever in you know, the super popular spot. Yeah. I was like, oh,
Voldemort?
No,
Like
a guy
actor?
named Tom Riddle. There's a person, I guess, whose name was Tom Riddle, and supposedly J.K. Rowling based the character off of this person.
Eric,
we talking about prediction markets. Been placing a bunch of $1 bets on Polymarket on all sorts of shit. It'll be fun. It's I can see how it intersects with games and sports a lot.
Chris, what are you going to be talking about today?
I'm going to be talking about a topic that I, to be honest, don't know a whole lot about, but I think we all find very interesting. I'm going to be relying on Super Yoast, who's a blogger. Yoast van der, what's his full name? Yoast something.
Dutch?
Yeah, he is.
Super excellent writer, super smart guy in the game space. He wrote a really good piece called Unbundling Xbox on this whole Xbox news. Asha Sharma, the new CEO of Xbox, and the 3,200 jobs that were just cut, along with some other stuff. So I'll be chatting a little bit about that article. What about you, Eric?
I've been talking about prediction markets. They're kind of in the news lately. You know, will Pepsi say zero sugar in their earnings call? Will Jesus Christ return before GTA 6 releases? Like, we can find out.
And Phil is going to be enlightening us on.
Yes, I've been cooking things that are dangerous in a laboratory, and one of those new ideas, and I've hinted at this beforehand, that the incredible number of people playing Roblox actually suggests gaming is about to have this incredible boom, or at least I think it's one of the positive bets. And I think we can just do some simple Malthusian arithmetic, so to speak. And I think we get some very interesting results by thinking about why Roblox replacement theory is potentially game changing. I think that's a pun for the industry.
Roblox replacement. That is an interesting.
yes.
I was just commenting on Eric Kress's. He made a post on LinkedIn about. But before we do that, shall we have an intellectual discussion about all the wonderful games we've been playing?
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
Eric, Rhythm Heaven. Is this a not safe for work game?
No, it's like a low budget rhythm game that Nintendo makes, but it's just like fun and goofy. Like it's hard to describe. Basically, there'll be some silly mini game happening, or you just have to press the A button to a certain rhythm. Like there'll be some tap dancers or some like little midgets jumping on a seesaw or something. And yeah, it's fun. I don't know.
Is it a Switch game?
Yeah, they just released one for the Switch. It goes back to the GBA and Wii. Have you ever played WarioWare? Did you ever play that game series? Yeah, it's a very similar vein to that, where it's this like very kind of ADD, like short, scratchy looking mini game. You press A a few times and then it jumps to the next one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does it have a lot of because Switch is not touchscreen, correct?
I don't think so. I think it might have a keyboard. I'm not sure.
That's one of the things I loved about the DS was just like being able to interact with stuff. I loved WarioWare.
Yeah.
One
of the interesting things. So WarioWare and Rhythm Heaven both developed by the same group, Nintendo R&D. Apparently, what they did was whenever they had a new console, they would send this R&D team out to like basically like, what kind of gimmicks can you do? We got the Wiimote, we got motion controls. What can you do with it? And they had the whole WarioWare games with the Wiimote, right? With the DS, they had a whole set of games with the touchscreen. And these are essentially their two prototype games for these consoles. Yeah, which is an interesting way to just figure out what you can do with a new peripheral or new control device.
Is that kind of like Wii Sports for the Wii?
Sort of, yeah.
Concept.
But then they stopped doing this because like the new Switches basically don't have unique peripheral controls. But then they re-released this game anyway. But yeah, it's interesting. Thinking about R&D and control devices. But anyway, yeah, I've been playing rhythm games, trying to teach my kids music. I don't know if this is making them any more musical, but they like watching it. So
is it a premium game? Like how much is this? How much is this
$40
button clicker? It's $40 for a fucking press A game, dude. Nintendo has got it figured out, man. Oh my god!
I mean, what matters is the amount of joy it brings me, and it brings me immense joy.
That's fair. So I also recently just spent $40 on a new game. I'm not one for DLC. Are you playing a? Phil's got the deets for us.
That's right.
Yeah,
we have
so
a video
each of
here on
these,
Game Economist Consulting, which we're watching right now, of Rhythm Heaven.
Yeah.
Rhythm.
So there'll be like visual and audio cues right here with the frogs. You gotta press A when the frog jumps on that lily pad.
Damn, dude. This is
and simple timing mechanics.
Yeah. It's all simple timing. It's usually one or two buttons.
Is there
timing
co-op or is it single player?
They added like a multiplayer mode and like some like RPG mode, which I haven't tried.
Whoa, very interesting. So there's a meta, or couldn't be.
A little bit, not really. It's pretty much just like a level-based game. This guy sucks. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's simple. It's delightful. It kind of shows you that like you can bring a lot of, game fun through extremely simple input, extremely simple gameplay. But I don't know. Rhythm games are niche.
So one thing I find intimidating, Eric, about any rhythm game is that I feel like it's always presented to me where I see like these pro players, whether it be DDR or that drumming game or that other one that they use their hand tapping for, similar to fighting games. It feels like the pro scene dominates, and it just makes me never want to pick it up because I know the chase is gone.
Yeah. I think that's definitely true for like, the legacy rhythm games like DDR, but I think if you just play it, right, there's always an easy setting, and it's actually pretty fun.
Wait, so you find it too difficult, Phil? Is what
I
you
think
said?
the perception and the way it's presented is like
I can
esports,
never be the best.
Oh,
I can never be
fine.
anywhere close.
Do you ever sing or dance even though you're not the best singer or dancer? Yeah. So like why do you feel the pressure to be the best DDR player but not the best?
Different norms, because like that's showing me like this very interesting mastery, and I think of games as like mastery, and I think like competitive Bartle type potentially like my persona of like.
But when you sing a song, you're not going for mastery.
It's interesting.
No, because it doesn't feel obtainable, so I don't feel like I'm in a competition. But when I play games are accessible.
A competitive game though. Why do you care?
Yeah, there's no leaderboards. There's barely even any social systems.
I think that reduces. I completely agree that reduces my giving a shit about this. But don't they have leaderboards?
Do they have leaderboards? No.
I mean, you
Okay,
could
never
share
mind.
your scores
Fucking, I'm
online,
in.
I guess. but
I'm fucking
yeah.
in.
It's, I don't know, it's like joyful little skits, right? It's almost like YouTube Shorts version of like games. But yeah,
Have you
anyway.
guys? I'm kind of curious, like, if you could make a game like that. This seems very simple. It made me think of the Roblox stuff. And the fact that you were willing to spend $40 on this, and like nobody's willing to spend that much on a Roblox game.
Very
and
true.
you know, I'm curious. Like, actually, have you guys played the new Mecha Chameleon game that was like the cloning controversy?
I watched some people playing it. The game looks hilarious.
It you know what? I mean, every Roblox game looks ridiculous.
No, this is a Roblox. This isn't a $6 indie game.
Well, no,
on
I know,
Steam.
but now it's a Roblox game.
I haven't watched the Roblox version, but I imagine it's not at full parity. But just what a $40 purchase did you make?
Oh, I bought a Shadow of the Erd tree for Elden Ring.
Nice.
Yeah, a big Souls fan. So I think I've gone on this diatribe a few times, but like by the time DLC comes out for a game, I've already beaten it and I've put it away for 6 months, and I don't really have a desire to get it back out. And with Elden Ring, I always go back to Dark Souls anyway. So I'm like playing Dark Souls. I'm like, why would I spend $40 on this DLC for a game?
So then why did you?
Well, I returned back. I came back to Elden Ring because I just kept seeing videos of it, and I was like, wow, that is an amazing game. Why did I stop playing that? I think I probably put like 200 hours into it initially, but it's easily 1,000. You could put 1,000 hours into that game. So I decided to do like a complete playthrough where I'm trying to basically unlock everything. So I'm one achievement away from platinuming the game. Unfortunately,
Does the game give you a score at the end or something?
no. Just like Xbox, how Xbox has like your achievements you can get when you're playing.
I believe you. I've never owned an Xbox.
What console do you own?
Yeah, this thing right here.
PlayStation? Oh, dude, you're a PC gamer?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I always figured you were like. Anyway, yeah, you can get.
What build you running? I know you can switch, but like, what's your main build? I guess.
So I also never play Magic, so I decided, okay, I'm gonna try to complete everything in the game, and I'm gonna be a mage. And it's been interesting. It's been fun. The mage is kind of OP sometimes, and then sometimes most of the time it's OP. It just like eliminates everything, and then other times it's pretty annoying because like if you have to get close to something, you're just getting absolutely fucking swatted.
Interfaith or
int. So, but anyway, very recently, you can't hit the DLC until you're very far into the game anyway. So I kind of waited until I had beaten the game to get the DLC. I've literally just started it, but I've been just really enjoying playing through Elden Ring. I'm very excited to be able to experience that like from soft magic again. And yeah, they got another, $40 out of me. This franchise has extracted at least $500 out of me over the span of like my life, which I feel like is pretty good, right? It's like, how much do you think you get out of somebody in Candy Crush or any of these other like super, super profitable games?
I mean, Phil, do you think there's a mobile game you spent more than $1,000 in?
Yes, I go. Yeah, for sure.
$500
for sure. There's one in particular.
Yeah,
Mobile
remember he was
Legends
talking
Adventure.
about how. Do you remember how he was talking about how he was like he dropped a couple $100 in like one night or something
Yeah,
on the toilet?
yeah, you got to. Monopoly Go, I actually spent quite a bit on. I was like trying to get into gambling more.
Dude, Monopoly Go is.
I'm trying to get more into gambling.
Yeah, Monopoly Go is an interesting one because I think you're right. I think that it like gives people who want to gamble the feeling that they're gambling, but they're not.
Well,
but it's, like,
it's
you're
interesting.
Still losing money.
I actually referenced something Eric has been saying on the podcast in my presentation that I thought was really a unique insight, which is that suspense is very interesting. Same thing with fantasy sports. There's this suspense factor of you don't know the outcome, but you're also experiencing it with other people together, which is interesting. I mean, the World Cup is so much fun to watch for this reason, and betting really does enhance an experience. And so the question is like, how do you nail suspense inside of a betting app? I think is a really interesting question that I explore with some clients. That's why I'm like, how can I get into betting and like what's going on?
That's interesting that you said. I mean, you kind of just made an assumption that betting makes sporting events better.
I think it does.
Experienced it. Like it's about stakes. And I've also worked in real money gaming where people will play tournaments, something like skills, and essentially the operator takes a margin. So one person wins the pot. So like say two people buy in for $1, the pot might be $1.80 and the operator takes 20 cents. And so they play these games for years, but they're not playing $100 rounds or super high expensive tournaments. They're playing like $5 tables. They're just looking for a little hit of dopamine, you know?
I
And
will
it's
say, I
mostly
don't think
women.
Skills was very successful as a product, but
I mean, they had a high market cap. This is still a legit industry. There's still people who make money at this.
But to your point, like about it enhancing, I don't watch a lot of meat sports, but I hear from people who watch meat sports that like everyone while watching the game is checking their phone, checking the live updates on their prop bets, and it makes a lot more things that happen in the game feel meaningful. A particular player's shot or like a particular score at a particular point in the game. Whereas normally you're kind of just watching and you're like, oh, score, okay, you know, and like you don't know what to care about, or you only care about the big events. And the betting, especially the prop betting, makes you care a lot about the little events. Yeah. And it's
kind of like drugs, right? Drugs make life super interesting and more enjoyable, but there's also some negative consequences of using drugs.
I think that's a great topic. We'll dive into that today, sort of the like societal implications of sports betting and stuff. But I think it definitely makes things, you care about things. And you know, one experience I had was I was messing around with these prediction markets. I'm like, you know, who's going to win the mayoral election of Seoul in South Korea? And I was like, I did not pay attention to this at all, and now I'm watching an election that I didn't give a shit about before and paying attention to South Korean politics. Apparently, the MAGA candidate won. So I made a nice $1.50 on that. So today we're going to play a game, fellas. You know, you guys are smart people. Well, we're going to put it to the test. I'm going to go through a series of questions on Polymarket, which is a prediction site. And I'm going to give you 60 seconds on each question to pick a side, yes or no. And then we'll do just whatever majority vote is what I'll place a $1 bet on. I do not advocate for irresponsibly gambling. I only make $1 bets because I know my expected value is negative. All right, let's go. All right. Will the U.S. announce a blockade in Iran by August 31st? Yes or no? Currently, market sits at 38%.
Will the
No.
U.S. announce a blockade on Iran by August 31st, July 31st? What if you don't think that it's going to happen at all? Oh, wait, but we have to choose between August 31st.
Yeah, so for each date is its own market. So we're looking at the August 31st market.
So why is the no button like all faded out? It looks like you can't click it.
I can click.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with no too. I'll just go with the crowd. I don't have anywhere near as much information as the crowd does.
Let's make a no bet here. All right, and just for the viewers at home, so the prediction market, the way it works is you can buy a yes or no contract. If you're right, it resolves to $1. If you're wrong, it resolves to $0. And they're going for, so for example, we buy one no contract for 63 cents. Basically, it says that we think the market thinks there's a 63% chance. The answer is no. And yeah, the payouts are according. And you can look at this chart. Actually, it started lower and it went up over time. So
you buy the contract for 63 cents. But you're buying $1 worth of contracts.
Yeah. So I'm actually buying like 1.56 contracts or something. Okay. This is how many contracts I'm buying.
Oh, you're buying 1.59. And what do you get if you win?
So I spend $1 and I win $1.59 if I win.
Okay.
And you can see if I buy the yes contract, the payout's higher because the odds are worse. Yeah.
So the payout for this derivative is 59% growth, like 59%. Dude, this is so easy. You just go find yourself a bunch of markets that are, like 90% gonna resolve, and you just put in a buy order for those, and you end up this arbitrage.
All right, lightning round. Next question. Will any Category 4 hurricane make landfall in the U.S. before 2027?
No.
Odds are sitting at 28%.
No.
Category 4 hurricane make landfall in the U.S. before 2027. What was the last Category 4 hurricane that made landfall?
I don't know. You got 40 seconds. Do some research.
God. Cat 4 hurricanes U.S. landfall. Probably should be using AI, but whatever.
Specifically Cat 4, so I think it excludes Cat 5.
Okay, since records began in 1851, 32 hurricanes have struck. Helene was the last one in 2024. Oh, bro, dude, yes.
You think yes?
You kidding
Phil says
me?
No.
Dude, Helene was in 2024. Yes, of course.
Okay, okay. When is hurricane season? Is hurricane season over?
No, I think it's late summer.
Okay, all right. I will tie break and vote yes. All right,
Oh,
next
hell yeah,
one.
dude. That's free $3 for you.
Will ChatGPT 6 be released by the end of the month?
Oh my God, no.
We're sitting at 3%. Yes.
No. Actually, hold up. So I guess if you want my intuition, Eric, I would say no. But can I buy on these? Should I? Let's put it this way. Should I take into account the current price?
Yes.
You basically want me to play a predictor. Like you want me to maximize a portfolio? Okay.
Yeah. Is it above or below 3%? Yeah.
I buy this. I buy this at a yes for sure.
Whoa. If it was going to, then OpenAI insiders would have already priced that in. It's
we
not
don't know that.
happen.
I don't think there's insider trading on this market, and I think there's high upside to this.
There was a little bump here.
I feel like there's like a really good chance of it being insider market.
I read a recent news report that suggested that, again, sources are vague, and I don't know who the reporter is of vague memory right now, that they would release it by the end of August, but I like the upside in July because $1 pays out $27, and I like the probabilities there.
Yeah, that's
I like
fair.
the expected value.
Yeah.
All right, we're taking the long shot here. I usually don't take the long shot, but when you're with the boys, sometimes you got to gamble. All right,
dude,
next
VC
one.
style, baby.
Will, in the 4th episode of House of the Dragon Season 3, will they say the word queen 20 times or more?
Oof, yes.
In
I'm
the
not
4th
caught up to
episode
with the show, but I would like to bet on this
In the
too.
4th episode of Hot D, will they say queen, the word queen, 20 plus times?
Dude,
Yes.
do they say queen a lot? Like I watched the first 2 seasons. I don't remember them saying queen.
Let's look
that
about
much.
Hot D Season 3 Episode 3
Dude, you still use
transcript.
Google? Not a dog. You gotta have the.
Dude, there's no way we're gonna be able to do this in this amount.
Queen. I'm gonna search for the word queen.
Okay.
I need you to put together
24 instances. There were 24 instances last episode.
Does plural queen or does possessive queen count? I vote yes on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote yes just because 24. It showed up 24 times the last con, so I'm going yes.
Seems like a good chance.
Cool. Will GTA 6's launch get postponed again?
So hold on. The other thing I would point out, Chris, is that we should be looking at volume. So like the House of the Dragons one only had $500 worth of volume.
Oh yeah.
And so the next one,
yeah, this is a good point. So to your note about the bets earlier, this volume is extremely thin. You'll notice that if I bet $1 on no, I got a 7% payout. But $10, it's still 7%. If I bet 100, it's 5%. If I bet 1,000, it's I actually lose money if I bet $1,000.
Yeah, because I mean you're the entire market.
Yeah, exactly. So the market's extremely thin.
There's not a lot to win.
I wouldn't bet in that market. I would choose not to bet in that market. But I think that's a good bet. $1. That's super interesting.
We'll get into this later, but yeah, you mentioned insider trading and thin markets are 2 of the major problems we see.
Okay. GTA 6 launch postponed again. I don't think so. What's the market for this? $500,000?
Says 10. This one's pretty thick.
I think that the GTA 6 guys are less likely to insider trade though, so there's no information there.
It's interesting. The market is flattening in the recent couple weeks though, which is interesting. Why did it stabilize?
I think it just goes down over time.
Stable,
right?
Yeah.
Over time, as the
prediction.
Yeah.
What's the current predict? It's like 2027, early 2027.
Yeah. Postponed from its previously. November 19th is the current release date. So you can see on each one there's like a specific rules as to what it means.
All it's talking about is the postponements. How often do they? When do they announce the postponement? Typically, how many days before?
I don't know.
Pre-orders begin June 25th. Because if we're like past the normal postponed time window, then I would say, let's go no.
All right,
seems
let's
like
go no.
It's a low.
All right, last one. France and Morocco World Cup.
Oh, this is a tough one.
You can bet France, Morocco draw. You can France will be win by more than 1 point. Will it go to overtime?
How common? What's 17 million for this market? Damn.
Yeah. Okay, so sports is another point. Sports betting is like 80 to 90% of the volume on these prediction markets.
So how common is a draw in soccer?
I don't know, but according to this, about 25% of the time.
Well, for this, it's interesting. Okay, go back down. Okay, that's 60.
You want to see the other markets?
Yeah, it's identical.
I think the more lopsided games, so these are all very close games because we're near the final round.
Yeah.
But if you go to like some of the more one-sided games,
It's
lower.
interesting. There's always a 25% chance of a draw. Like that's kind of fascinating. Okay. I mean, I'm gonna go with the crowd here. I don't really know.
France, how about you, Phil? Like France, Morocco?
I guess we should look at the rest
France.
of our portfolio and
France?
see
I go
like
France
how
on this one, and I go big.
We're going
we go
France.
France. And
I
you
do
go-
I
$1
go big.
only because
Oh, okay.
the EV's
Okay.
EV's all negative. All right, I'll go for $2 for Phil.
What's our limit? What's our wallet we're managing?
We don't want to shift the market, man.
I have
You're not
$250 here.
You're not.
But yeah, I'm not logged in because I'm not. I'm back in the U.S. I had to fly back from Argentina because Riverside wasn't working from Argentina.
Okay.
I would.
Cool.
I just bet the house on this.
But you just bet the house?
All in.
You already did?
I'll go $3. I'll go $3 for you,
Okay,
Phil.
that counts. That
Cool.
counts.
All in,
That's-
baby. $3.
That's 200% more than
Cool.
the
So I've
original
queued up
bet.
these bets. I can't actually place them because I'm in the U.S., but I'm gonna place them once I'm back in Argentina. Cool. Yeah. So got a little taste of prediction markets. Time to kick off my spiel. Yeah. So I've been messing around with this a little bit. I've got like $300 in crypto that like I don't want to take out for tax reasons. So I've just been messing around with it on Polymarket, and it's kind of fun. You know, you kind of get to exercise your judgment. You know, I like to think I'm a smart guy. I like to exercise my judgment on all these things. I'm down like $10, so I'm like, oh, I'm actually bad at predicting. But
I'm curious, do they have any yeah. Does Polymarket have anything like that to try to like hook you? I know I see these billboards all the time, like your first bet is free.
so I think Polymarket, okay, so there's two major prediction markets out there. Kalshi and Polymarket are the two big ones. Polymarket actually, you know, where this started as a Web3 podcast, they actually were a crypto project way back in the day, and they still are.
Yeah.
And so
on
they are
Polygon.
very much like expect anonymity, expect essentially bad actors and designing around that. So Polymarket does not have any of that stuff. Kalshi is much more of like a, you know, consumer gambling app. Have you probably seen Kalshi advertisements? Like I see them on Reddit all the time. And I haven't looked at them, but I imagine they might have stuff like that. I know a lot of sports betting apps have stuff like that. So interestingly, these things have kind of exploded in the last couple of years. Kind of out of nowhere. I felt like sports betting was kind of gradually getting legalized. There was the Supreme Court case that said that states were allowed to individually legalize sports betting, and then states one by one started to do it. But then there was actually some kind of ruling that said that these prediction markets are actually financial instruments, and therefore it's open season on them. And Kalshi went just mass market with it. Donald Trump Jr. is on the board of advisors for Kalshi, so there's probably some kind of connection going on there. But yeah, they're big. They market themselves like financial instruments, but really it is sports betting. It is 80 to 90% of their volume is sports betting. And if you go to any of these sites, the first page is all sports betting stuff, which makes sense, right? I'm sure if any of you guys watch Meat Sports with other human beings, which I don't, but I hear anecdotes about it, everyone's just looking at their phones in between goals and points just to check on their bets. And they say it makes it more exciting, and I believe them.
Yeah, I definitely people doing that for the Super Bowl. And it was kind of interesting to see, like, it's kind of like Robinhood. All of a sudden there was this group of people. There's like, oh, I didn't know you were like, you know, an investor. And it's like, oh, I've got my like Robinhood app and, you know, I'm trading right now. It is funny because, you know, that makes a really good commercial, but it actually happens in real life. So I was like, bro, like, do you bet? Like, I didn't know you were a gambler. He's like, oh, I'm not a gambler. It's just like $20, $25. Yeah. You know, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But
so I think there's some interesting economic history about prediction markets, which is that like the economists actually been interested in this for a long time because like theoretically prediction markets can elicit the incentives and such elicit behavior that should hypothetically predict these events with accuracy. How likely is the U.S. to create a blockade on Iran? Well, this is an aggregate of all the market information out there. And if someone believes the percentage is too high or too low, they'll bet in that direction and move the market. So I think it's a fascinating instrument in that way. And it also it harnesses the wisdom of the crowds instead of individual predictors, individual forecasters or pundits who historically have actually been shown to be pretty bad at making predictions, and in fact are often incentivized to not make specific falsifiable predictions so they don't get shown up as being wrong. I think back in 1988, the University of Iowa created the Iowa electronic markets, where it was a political prediction market. And you had to, you know, it was like regulated because back then there were more like financial regulations. But they've been running this electronic prediction market for decades at this point. And on some political elections, it actually is more accurate than pollsters and forecasters. On most of them, it's about on par, not like significantly better. But yeah, there's empirical evidence to back up the theory. As someone who's interested in this stuff, I was super excited to see these prediction markets actually hit mass consumer, actually realize the theory that was behind them. Chris, you have any thoughts? I know you wrote some articles about this stuff.
My first comment, I think that there is a lot to say on this experts giving forecasts compared to a prediction market. One thing that I do want to just clear up, because it's a common misconception. When Nate Silver says there's a 65% chance that so-and-so is going to win the election, he really means there's a 65% chance. He doesn't mean that that person is going to win. He means that, if we sampled this 1,000,000 times, then 65% of the scenarios would have this person winning, and 45% of them would have them not winning. I'm not familiar with this like bad incentives thing that you mentioned with certain forecasters giving a bad forecast because there's perverse incentives to give a good forecast or to even render an opinion. But that's the first thing that I love this idea that it's an aggregation of a lot of opinions. One thing I wanted to point out, I think that prediction markets do a really good job at predicting elections because elections are a much more if I know who I'm going to vote for, like I actually have the ability to influence the results of that election and the ability to influence the results of the market. Where this gets trickier is like predicting something that nobody has any control over. So for example, like economists, they make predictions, they try to forecast labor. How many jobs are we going to create next month? What's the unemployment rate going to be next month? And that is I think that's something that prediction markets do a worse job of because that's heavily theoretical, heavily modeled. So that's kind of the interesting thing about the market is an expert's opinion is weighted the same as a normie. And for an election, I think that's a good thing. I would be very curious to see which one is more performant, an aggregate of expert opinions or expert forecasts versus the market for different topics. Because I think it heavily depends. And in my articles, I write, there are different vectors by which a market can be defined. How niche is the market, right? We were looking at the market for freaking, had like a $500 liquidity. So,
how often will they say Queen in Hot D season?
Yeah, exactly.
4?
It's like that's a very niche market. So you can only do so much manipulation in that market if you have like really, really solid information. And then, there are a couple of other ones, but and one of them had to do with like, okay, how much influence does a voter have, a person participating in that market have over the resolution of that market? So you have a niche market where one person can manipulate the result of that market. For example, Maduro being captured was a really popular one. Somebody made $450K by just throwing in a bet that 12 hours before Maduro was captured, that Maduro was going to be captured. It's a niche market, but it had enough liquidity that you could get away with a big bet, which I think gets into your, probably further discussion about like bad actors, manipulation, and insider trading. Phil, what were you showing us?
Phil's result returned on the mentions of Queens and Hot D. Does this change your bet? I will go with whatever you say here.
Yes. I would. No, it would only let me. I would triple, quadruple down. I'd go another $4 on this. This is an upward sloping,
for sure.
Upward sloping trend. So you have a moving
Agreed.
average that's increasing. So I think that's good. You also have the idea that it could be any preposition. That was also something that I think was great that Fable found, is that we cared about the rules, the wording, so that it casts a wider net than my original expectations. Market is illiquid. It could do dumb shit. I hope everyone else had done this analysis. I think the question is what's happening in the plot that would make them say Queen. I don't have that information, but fuck it. Let's go for it.
So you're saying yes, above
Yes.
20 times with greater than 30% chance. All right, cool.
Correct.
I will double down for you. I'll put a whole $2 on there.
I agree.
Cool.
Although, we could end up with regression to the mean. We could have.
When I saw that chart, actually, I was going to reverse my opinion. I was like, I only looked at episode 3, but if you look at the average, like most of them are under.
Are we using recent information? Are we like using exponential discounting to make a really sophisticated forecast, or are we, falling victim to recency bias?
Yeah, I think all these questions that we have right here, right, different ways, different, quote unquote experts could interpret the data is why we need prediction markets to like aggregate all these different approaches.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the controversies about prediction markets, because I think part of them being popular is also they're being controversial. So I think there's three main topics I want to touch on. One is just like consumer gambling generally. Actually, I'm going to totally sidestep that, but should we be making gambling normalized and access to consumers? Is the advertising for gambling okay because it presents this warped view that you can make money when really most people lose money? I'm going to sidestep that. We're going to ignore that. I don't want to touch that one. The other is about insider trading and outcome manipulation, which are two kind of rubber meets the road moments for prediction markets where this actually could be affecting the real world in bad ways. So insider trading, right? So let's say you work on Hot D, you have the script, you know how many times Queen is going to appear. You could just bet on that, right? This Hot D question had very low volume, but some of these other ones, like the GTA announcement delay, if you're in the marketing department for Rockstar, you probably know the answer to that question. And there's actually been evidence of people doing insider trading. Some people got convicted. A lot of people in the army were getting convicted for doing insider trading on like whether or not the U.S. will strike Iran or whether we'll abduct Maduro. Like they're placing bets right before the military conducts these operations, which is like basically leaking national security secrets. So this insider trading is definitely happening. And I think the controversy comes from 2 points. One is that the market is rigged. Like it feels like it's being presented as a fair game, but it's not a fair game. Some people have an enormous advantage. And then the second is that I guess it should be like people don't like that others are profiting based on their insider information. Yeah, I'm curious if you guys have any hot takes on this.
Insider trading is good. Insider trading is good.
Give me some reasons.
Robin Hansen has a great piece on this. Basically, it gives us more accurate information, so we should allow it. And buyer beware, which is basically what Polymarket is. I think it's fine. Go for it. I do worry about corrosive effects of essentially what is gambling for the vast majority of people. I think the returns satisfy that.
So is it okay, for example, is it okay for Nancy Pelosi's husband to trade on information about NVIDIA contracts and like Intel contracts and shit like that?
Yes.
That the government is going to do?
Yes.
Okay.
How's that okay?
Okay, why is it bad, Chris? Tell me why it's bad.
In this particular instance, this is an elected official who has a moral obligation to its people, who is doing something that makes them better off and everyone else worse off, because a market is a zero-sum game, and our elected officials shouldn't do things that make us worse off.
Okay, I'm going to jump in and throw my take. I think insider trading is fine. I think outcome manipulation is very dangerous.
Yeah, which are two pretty distinct.
And I think I want to make these distinct, right? If in one world is Nancy Pelosi does her legislation totally agnostic of what will happen downstream, and then her husband gets that information and trades off of it and makes a shitload of money. I think that's probably mostly fine. It feels kind of unfair because he's in a privileged position, but like whatever. I think if Nancy Pelosi is changing who they're giving contracts to so that her husband can make more money trading and picks a suboptimal chip manufacturer, that is bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's the distinction, I think, between the insider trading versus actually manipulating the outcome.
Yeah, and not all markets can be manipulated, right? Like it's very difficult for the average Joe to manipulate the market. We have only recently seen a situation where one person was able to effectively manipulate the entire world economy with like a tweet. So I think that is. I'm aligned with you guys there. I think that I am okay with insider trading insofar, like in the same way that I'm okay with competition. For me, if the government or government entities are participating in insider trading, they're sitting in a privileged position where competition can't outcompete them. It can't push them out of the market because they were elected to be in the market. This is why I don't like state-run or government-run companies. I don't think it's fair that the government, which is an entity that's supposed to help the people, not manage our markets. I don't like it when they own, businesses. They shouldn't, in the same way that they shouldn't be able to participate in a market for iPhones or chips because they have a winning hand. They have a nuclear bomb they could drop and say, well, fuck you. I'm not competing because I have a bomb that I can destroy you with. I think like my resistance is the same for, I have an equivalent argument for this like prediction market insider trading. Like it just feels wrong. It feels like they have a trump card, quite literally, that nobody else could compete with. So yeah, if there's an employee at GTA or at not Santa Monica, oh my God, at Rockstar, who's using their insider information to, profit off of that I'm on Phil's side. I don't think that's a huge deal. And even if we were talking about a bigger market, a more liquid market, I think that's okay. And I think it gives information to people like us. Every single one of those markets, I was, well, okay, what's the probability that there's an insider trader that's going to give me information on this market? And I think that is kind of good. Where I think it breaks down is this idea that somebody who has a very privileged position because people voted for that, that's where it's like, I don't know.
Right. To sort of touch on those points, I was talking to my finance friend about this. He does a bunch of sports betting, and he's like, no, the point, insider trading is good. The whole point of the financial market is to elicit information that's often inside information and aggregate it in this market. The whole point of the market is to use your personal information to make smart bets. And from that perspective, right, yes, maybe it's unfair that Nancy Pelosi's husband is able to trade certain stocks better than you. Yes, maybe it's not a balanced game in the sense that not every person is, if you work on hot D, you can make, trades more efficiently. But that's fine, right? Like the game isn't necessarily fair for all participants. What matters is that it's like, is it functioning properly as a market? However, I think getting into the outcome manipulation is where it's bad, right? Like, so there's famous sports betting manipulation scandals, right? Where like the Black Sox scandal where they threw the World Series to make a bunch of bets for the mob. There's a lot of like small scale esports, like match fixing scandals. There's these things happen all over the place. There's actually a particularly funny one where there's actually a bunch of bets about the temperature of various cities. And somebody went to the Paris airport and there's like a thermostat there that is being used to determine the outcome of the bet, and they just used a hair dryer to manipulate the temperature, right? So they like falsified data to make themselves win a long shot bet. Yeah, right. That is fucked up, and I think that's where it gets into like, okay, this is actually fraud or potentially harming society because of misaligned incentives. I'm going to give the contract to someone that'll help me win some stock market bet.
Yeah.
I have two questions, Eric, and I don't know if you know the answer to the first one. Do you know how these markets, can anybody start a market? Like, could I go on and say, what's the probability? What do you think? Do you think Chris is going to have 6 cups of coffee today or 3? How many cups of coffee is Chris going to have today? Can I go out and make that market? I'm not sure
exactly how the markets are started, but it seems decentralized. There might be some light screening. The outcomes of the markets, there's 2 types. There's some are, if you're back in the DeFi days, some are hard-coded smart contracts to something on chain, or some like API sensor. So they're like smart contracts in that they're enforced through code. Others are a human resolver who has to go through and resolve the contract. And other people are allowed to dispute the resolution. So if we look here, actually, basically at the bottom of each market, you can see there's there's a definition of yes and no, and there's like a resolver, which is like a blockchain address, who's the person responsible for resolving it.
So this insider manipulation, we'll call it manipulation instead of like insider trading, because that's probably my biggest concern. When I think about the economic impacts, you end up so let's take a binary outcome where it's like, oh, what's the probability that the U.S. will drop a nuke on New York City, and there's a 0% probability that that's going to happen. But it's a huge market. This market would probably not exist, and that's actually one of my articles is about the fact that the damage that can be done is it's very limited in these markets, because that type of a market would never happen. Like, why would let's say there's $1 million market for dropping a nuke on New York City? Why would anybody put money on that market? It makes no sense at all. But theoretically, let's just say that market exists. There's some crazy market where somehow there's $10 million worth of liquidity for dropping a bomb in New York City. Yeah, you end up in this situation where we do something that is extremely suboptimal economically, but hey, I could make $5 million if I, drop a bomb on New York City. It's a terrible example, but you kind of this is the core issue. How do you avoid those markets from, assuming that they could exist? How do we avoid? Is there a mechanism designed to get rid of those markets? Do you just have to hard code it? Do you have to have a person who decides? Well, if you have a person who decides, so then somebody else, Polymarket 2.0 is going to come out. And they're going to say, you can bet on anything. Like it's even better than Polymarket. I don't know if you thought about that.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but like the thing is, a lot of the things that seem like macabre to bet on, like will Nicholas or Maduro be abducted, are also the things that are very important to know about. And so like catastrophic world events are something that we should be trying to aggregate information on. So the nuke on New York City, but like, will there be a nuclear bomb detonation in the next decade? That's an important geopolitical question. So I would say that it's hard to find a question like that where it's both the perverse incentives are bad, but also the information, like is usually pretty valuable as well. So I think that it leads to this other question of if insider trading is present, does that necessarily mean that outcome manipulation is possible? Like if there's a nuke on New York City bet.
No, the one does not necessitate the other. You can insider trade and have absolutely no control over the outcome. If my friend tells me, hey, this market, it will resolve this way, I know with 100% accuracy, I can insider trade on that, but I don't have any.
But on the market level, not the individual level. So like if a market is able to have inside information, does that mean someone can manipulate that market? Not you specifically, but anybody. Yeah.
Depends on the volume, right? The liquid, but I feel that is something that you inherently take as a risk when you enter small markets like the House of the D. Like I know there's an increased risk that the price reflected in House of the D is the result of potentially an insider leaking information or close relative, whatever it may be.
Well,
Although,
yeah,
we could measure that though. I think you could also get to like regulatory equilibrium where you want profiles to be tracked. You don't want like tornado cash where you can't track individual betting profiles.
Yeah. So I
like
find
public
this kind
information moves to the middle quicker, I would argue.
So I think eventually like people will start to learn how to identify insider trades, especially in these markets. The nice thing about Polymarket is it is on chain. That's obviously anonymous, but you can see exactly what's happening. It's all like perfectly available to you. Whereas in a traditional market, you have to like spend buco bucks to be able to get like level 2 data. You know exactly when these things are happening. It doesn't eliminate the incentive because they still were the first ones to the market. It does mean the market resolves more quickly or reaches the new equilibrium more quickly. I think it is an interesting question, Eric. Does the presence of insider trading also, is it like an if and only if situation with manipulation? I don't think so. And the example that I would give is, I don't know if this logic holds up, Phil. You're the philosopher. If I'm the only person in the world who has been given information by a godlike entity that tomorrow Russia's going to drop a nuke in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, nobody in the universe has the ability to influence that, but I can resolve. Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah,
right. Like, is there a friend who gave you the tip? Is somewhere in that information stream someone who had a hand on the lever?
I was talking about those vectors earlier. I have 3, but the 2 that are relevant here are information exclusivity. So how many people know about this information? And if there's a lot of people who know about it, maybe everybody knows about it, then it's not insider trading at all. And the market is going to resolve the way it would normally resolve. And then the other thing is, and this one's kind of a multifaceted one, the accuracy of the information. So that is, how certain are you that this will resolve this way? And that could be because you're the one who's going to resolve it, or it could be because you have access to super, super high quality information. So I think those 2 things, the higher accuracy you have and the more exclusive that information is, the more high risk the market is. But I don't think that gets at this question of, is it manipulation the same thing as insider trading?
You said something interesting there, which is that like maybe we regulate these on the market side rather than the actor side. It's not that you should go after individuals who are insider trading. You should be like, oh, this market is a sus market.
This is a weird market. Yeah, exactly. And that gets to the third one, which is market niche. If you've got a market that should just not exist, but somehow it does, that's a problem. And when I say that, it's like, okay, this outcome makes no sense. No person who's living in modern day would if there's a giant market for whether or not the Black Plague is going to come back, and there's absolutely no evidence that the Black Plague has any possibility of returning, like that's a weird market. There must be a way to define suspicious markets. We need a way to define suspicious markets. But then the question is like, what do you do about a suspicious market? I don't think that the damage. I think the damage is limited. I think like the most egregious example that we've probably seen is the Maduro resolution. And that person profited $450,000. Now, if they're doing that every day, that is a lot of money. But if they're only able to do it every year, is that a huge deal? Yeah. And that's a person with the most powerful accuracy and exclusivity they could possibly have. And that's the most they could get out of it.
Welcome to a new section called Taste of Your Own Medicine, where all 3 of us basically get humble pie served at us from our prediction market bets. But let's see, maybe we're up on this. Let's see how GEC does. Okay. So I gave a talk, and I've been thinking about the industry for a while, and one of the things I've been thinking about is what are the consequences of Roblox, and what happens if we think of the industry itself as the product and we apply what you might call is basic product management economics. The thing we really need to figure out is what the Roblox audience represents in the long. And the first piece of like really interesting exploratory information is of course from Matthew Ball's State of the Gaming report, where he comments that almost all growth in the industry over the last 20 years has come from mobile. PC has been growing, it's true, in the short run, but by and large, it's economy. So rather than growing at like 10 or 15%, where you have these amazing premiums, you're growing at the rate the economy is growing, which, for many people is not a good return. And I think there's some evidence of convergence right now. We're looking at US in-app purchase growth for mobile games versus the change in disposable income growth over those periods, and they're becoming an increasingly correlated time series. So I think there's at least some evidence that there could be a relationship here. We see the same thing in China. In fact, the relationship is even stronger. So if we go back to 2018, there's a pretty strong correlation between Chinese IP growth and GDP per capita, which is different than the last metric. It's very hard to get like household spending consumption data over China. Thing that I think I would then point out as kind of let's call it warm-up information to make the theory sing. That's 50% of all US kids under 16 play Roblox daily. They have 380 million monthly active users, which is more than Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, almost combined. Actually combined on this chart, yes. So they are bigger than the three biggest platforms, right? That is an incredible number of new users that are joining Roblox. More than we've ever seen in our lifetime.
That number seems insanely high. Like, I know it's ubiquitous,
It's true.
but 50% daily?
Yes.
What was that? Because I've seen this stat as well. Did that come from some sort of like household survey?
I also did some back of the envelope because the MAU is 100% true. And so just
Yeah,
then
but
go
MAU is
back
not DAO.
they've also released DAO numbers.
Well,
You can back into this with DAO. They've released some data points so you can estimate the ratio between DAO
Oh,
and MAU.
you said play daily. I mean, at least I think that the claim that 50% of all U.S. kids play Roblox, period, is probably true. I don't know about daily.
But yeah, playing daily is like, does that mean
Yes.
a particular kid plays every day of the month? Or is
So I would
like
say-
the way it's
I would
worded
say
is different than, yeah.
Yeah, so yes, a kid 50% of all US kids under 16 play daily. So that is basically taking DAU in the United States and dividing it by the number of kids under 16. And of course there was a minimum.
Okay, that's
age
a
range
different
here, so we're not
statement.
including babies.
One is 50% of kids under 16 are playing on a given day. The other is 50% of kids play every single day.
Wait, what? This says 50% of kids in the U.S.
A kid who plays daily plays every single day. That's
Correct.
different than half of.
I'm not talking
DAO is
about
half of
correct, Eric. I'm not talking about we're not tracking an individual over time by saying this.
Yeah.
We're just saying that if you take the DAU of, let's say, US Roblox users, and then you take the number of kids in that same age range in the United States and you divide those out, you get 50%.
Okay.
I'm not talking about
more
individuals. So you
believable
can
to me.
take breaks.
Okay.
Yeah. That and just to give you like a super broad eyeball, 380 million MAU in the United. That's about the population of the United States.
It's more. I think it's greater than the population of the U.S.
What am I saying here? Well, let's call it Roblox replacement theory, and it happens in 3 steps. The first is that Roblox is acquiring people to gaming as a medium. So all of these new users into gaming are not being acquired just to Roblox, but they're going to persist. These habits are going to persist. Their investment, their ability to play games and them actually playing it is going to persist. And so the second observation we'll make for this theory to work is that acquisition for this aged cohort is higher than at any other point in history. So again, we've never had 50% of, let's say, US kids under the age of 16 playing video games. We've never had that sort of ratio. That ratio is fucking crazy. And so we have a much better acquisition cohort, or almost like download funnel, to gaming as a medium, putting these two facts together. And so with this wider funnel and just more time and the fact that older gamers die out, you get this stacking DAU effect. It's almost like a snake that's swallowing like a really big piece of prey, except they continue to swallow it and it's actually getting bigger and bigger as it's stacking. And so you can run like a little bit of simulation. And if we take this information and we apply, let's say, an 80% carry through of this daily habit into adulthood, so we assume that some of these players are going to abandon as they get older and older. And we basically just fix this funnel, right? So we continue to assume that Roblox is acquiring at 50% per year for under 16. Then by 2055, you get 2 in 5 Americans playing video games, which is a increase as a relative share. So 39% of the population by 2055 would be playing video games, whereas let's say only in 2025 it was 28%. And we know that revenue follows engagement largely. So this means that you should bet long on gaming. And I'm calling this Roblox replacement theory, and I think it's sound. I think it's very Malthusian, but I think it works.
A lot of this is based on that Roblox gamer survivorship. What percentage of kids will continue playing
carry
games?
through.
Yeah.
Correct. So that is the key assumption in this model, right? Because from there, it's just an accounting identity.
And do you believe they'll continue playing Roblox specifically, or they'll migrate to gaming generally?
This theory doesn't depend on differentiating between those two, but if you held a gun to my head, I don't think they're going to continue to play Roblox. I know there's some evidence that people are aging up in the platform, but I just don't think you're going to be able to hold that into adulthood. I think there's these really interesting negative externalities that people don't talk about with networking effects, where like, Facebook, for instance, became uncool because your mother was on it. That very fact is repulsive.
So they're going to go
to
they're going to go to like Xbox. I feel like that's
there's all these like local equilibria which are interesting on social networks.
I feel like
Fortnite was positioned to be the age up platform.
Well, exactly, and then they got old. I mean, I would say, I guess my question is like, what's these kids once they start to age up? Do they continue to play Roblox, or do they go to the new thing, or do they go to Sony Xbox PC? I don't think they're going to go to Sony Xbox PC. That's my personal opinion. I think that people tend to stick to the things that they're used to.
I mean, we have a microcosm this of like mobile to console or console to PC. Like, to what extent does that transition happen?
One of the interesting pieces of evidence for this, and I think this is also interesting to reason about in terms of where the causation is. There's the great James Carville saying that politics is upstream of culture, and sometimes I wonder if culture is upstream of actual habits, or it's the other way around. The thing I always like to point out is that people who used to make fun of you for playing video games, I think particularly if you were millennial, just as millennials were leaving, were like the jocks. Oh my God, you play video games. What a nerd, right? And now those jocks are playing Call of Duty. They love fucking Call of Duty. There's nothing socially embarrassing about saying that you play games. In fact, it's almost expected. It's weird if you're a male and you don't play games. And I think that transformation is happening for women too, particularly older women who are playing things like Candy Crush and June's Journey at ratios and rates you would never ever expect. They just don't adopt the word gamer, and we have survey data for this. Cultural norms are changing, and I think that also has a really good networking effect of like, oh, it's socially acceptable to say you're a gamer, and so I think that helps propel this, right? So it's becoming more accepted to be a gamer. There's more cultural norms about it. I would say the thing that's interesting is I don't really see it reflected in pop culture. We basically have zero cultural power. Yes, some people are into the fact that like, hey, there's Elden Ring coming out. But by and large, I think there's like, look at the World Cup, right? Full fucking coverage over the world. And it is true, like FIFA is a video game that does very well. All these football games do really well during the World Cup. But as an inverse population, it's not like it's greater than the World Cup. Far more people are doing that. It just feels like it isn't mentioned, isn't part of the conversation.
I don't disagree with this idea that the population will grow. Like, I don't disagree that Roblox has created a new generation of gamers. I think the big question from my point of view, because the business models for these companies, or for these Roblox studios and for these Roblox games, is so much different than the traditional business model. So my question is, what happens to the industry as we know it? Like, what happens to Xbox? What happens to PlayStation and PC? There's a lot of actually Roblox gamers playing on PC, which is something I think people don't understand. But it's like, I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, how many Roblox economists are there? Not for Roblox the company, for Roblox Studios. How many Roblox data scientists are there? How many Roblox like people helping them optimize their operations?
So even if the games don't stay on Roblox, like, how does this change the landscape for game? Right? You're saying, okay, there's a lot more gamers, but will their preferences change? Will the types of games they're looking for change? How on the like to Chris' point on the industry side, how do we adapt? How do we capture this slice of this growing pie of young gamers graduating out of Roblox?
So what I would say is that the most important fact here is that more people are gaming than ever before, or that's what this model would tease out. And so that means GDP increases and rising tides lifts all boats. Like you want to be an industry that's growing, that's good for wages. Like one of the things people forget is that game industry wages have fucking exploded. And yes, it's true we're not Silicon Valley, and maybe it's the opportunity cost argument, but it's like it's Bermude's cost disease almost, because like engineers in gaming have opportunity costs. But honestly, I think it's the case that there's been a labor crunch for a long time, and supply has not kept up with demand. I think that's why you actually see a lot of expansion in certain areas. But that's the most important part here is that we're all getting richer. I think, the idea that preferences could change. Yeah, I would say like there's always genre innovation. What is the Henry Ford quote? People can only imagine a faster horse. Like I think they have preferences in some sense. Like to give you one example that I've been thinking a lot about, first person shooters have been getting more and more sophisticated. So now they've introduced a sprint button that you have to click with the center of the analog stick. They have aim down sights, which is also an innovation that used to not be the case. Remember, if you're playing Quaker Doom, there wasn't ADS as they call it. We've added crouch. We've added the idea you could lie on your back in many games. We've added this omnidirectional idea that Call of Duty played with, that you could actually sprint side to side without actually facing that direction. So there's all these like things that the audience has basically grown with these mechanics. And if you're a newcomer, it's more intimidating because there's more to master. So I think you could see that happening, is that you basically get like these deep, more sophisticated branches of certain genres as like those group of players age, and then that kind of breaks
But
off and
if
becomes its own
Roblox
thing.
players aren't getting exposed to, let's say, classic shooters, classic fighting games,
Mhm.
does that mean their branch is essentially diverging and there's a different set of games they have a preference for? Like Amanda even mentioned that their terms for genres are totally different than the traditional gaming market. Their genre labels and classifications are very different. Their conception of what the gaming landscape is pretty different.
I would say even I would still point to those Roblox games as having lineage. I don't think they're poofed into air.
Okay.
Like I
Like
mean I can
from
see so
the
many games
developer
like
side, I see that.
Grow a
But like
Garden, Adopt Me, a lot of the Brookhaven, all these top games have total analogs in normal free to play. I think you can pretty easily see the mechanic deconstruction.
okay,
Yeah,
fair.
Gotcha,
but
monetization, even the
but
trading
I
stuff.
it does feel. I mean, there's not a lot of traditional game design or game industry experience among Roblox
No,
developers,
no.
especially some of the bigger ones. The story for us is we need to adapt and we need to grow our skill set and understand this new group of people, this new group of developers, because there's going to be a large portion of the I think about like early computers. Those like an old school computer you put a punch card into is a totally different concept from a modern day computer. I mean, obviously, functionally, they operate in a similar way at the very base. But if you don't reskill and upgrade, yourself to this new industry, you get left behind. So the label video game will continue, but I think a lot of the studios and the companies and the people that are working in this industry will end up becoming dinosaurs and things of the past. I get concerned when I hear people say like, "Oh, well, the video games industry is growing." It's like, well, no, Roblox is growing, and they are in the video games, but like, don't think that this means that this helps. Maybe you're right, Phil, that rising tide helps everybody, but for me, this doesn't mean that your company, your studio that's 20 years old is going to be doing better because Roblox is making more gamers. It means that there will be more Roblox studios. It means that there will maybe be a new competitor to Roblox that comes out that comes into the picture. But the industry as we know it will shrink, and the industry of video games as a whole will grow. The GDP will grow. But that's why I'm really excited you're working with that studio. I think that's super super critical for all of us.
Honestly, Chris, I mean, well, actually, Adopt Me is all trading. It's all barter. Literally, the entire thing is barter. That's the entire
Yeah.
fucking game. I didn't even know this.
Wait,
That's it.
really?
That's all you do. Yeah. You log
Don't
in.
you crack new pets and
So,
then
so here's what happens. You log in and you complete activities, and then what happens is there's a global timer that is for you to manage the pets that are outside that you have equipped, like petting them and interacting with them, which rewards you currency that lets you do polls that are probabilistic. And then everything after that is barter.
wow.
And so there's a steady stream of new pets, which is a function of that global refresh and the amount of gotcha tokens they essentially give you for interacting with your pet. But that's extremely controlled. So even though they have a trading economy, they haven't experienced any inflation because they've
Is there
kept it very
any
steady.
intermediating currency
It's
for the
only
barter?
the one that's their currency has emerged. So they have this particular pet that has become currency, or it's called
Mm.
That's
soul
awesome.
token or some shit.
Okay, so they have
Mhm.
they have a pecuniary good, but it's not okay.
They have
Yeah. I was almost going to
Super-
take. So everything's been barter.
I think I'm curious, like, do these kids, are they, I shouldn't say kids, but do these developers, are they scared of, I'm waiting for the first, I have yet to see, and I'm probably there does exist one, but I have yet to see hiring a, economist for some Roblox game. Like, I haven't really seen a lot of those. And I'm wondering, do they just not know that these people exist to help them make their games more money, or are they resistant to that? Maybe they just don't want that. Like, I don't want your like modern, or your crazy tools that you use to destroy games like Candy Crush or whatever. We want to keep this fresh and whole. In our usual fashion, we'll get to the Xbox news next episode when it's old.
That's
cool. All right, sweet.
We should teach this to our children. Economics is major. Everyone has to major in economics. Number one, for personal survival. Economics is major.